from the betting capital of the world, giving raw and real breakdowns of mixed martial arts and recapping UFC events like no one else, with producer Martin on the ones and twos and combat sports betting expert Effie. You're listening to Any Action Sportscast. Any Action Sportscast. So put your headphones on and let's take this podcast to the next level.
This isn't a podcast. It's a sportscast.
What is up, guys? We are back. It's your boy Effie with Any Action Sportscast, here to go over UFC 302, Dustin Poirier versus Islam Makhachev. We have the 155-pound title on the line on Saturday, and it should be a good main event. In the co-main event, we have a banger with Strickland taking on Paulo Costa in a 5-round fight. It's going to be another very close fight, guys, but we're coming off a week with no UFC, so a lot of these money lines have had a week to marinate, a lot of movement, a lot of live underdogs in my opinion, and a lot of favorites are just way too wide on the money line. So without any further ado, let's get right into the fights. In the very first fight of the night, we have a men's flyweight fight between Mitch Raposo and Andre Lima. Raposo comes in making his UFC debut with a 9-1 record, currently plus 220 on the money line. He's fighting Andre Lima, who comes in with an 8-0 record, currently minus 270 on the money line. So this is a very short notice fight for Mitch Raposo. He has about 10 days notice in this fight to fight Andre Lima, coming in making his debut. Going to be his first fight in the UFC, but we have seen him on Dana White Contender Series, and we've seen him on The Ultimate Fighter. And he's a decent enough fighter, man. I actually like the wrestling from Mitch Raposo. I know that he has a lot of highlight wins with his hands, very good, powerful striking, getting a lot of knockouts on the regional scene. You know, he didn't quite make it on The Ultimate Fighter. He lost to some low-level competition, in my opinion, on that show. But he's, done a good job of getting his wins in the regional scenes, and then now getting his chance again in the UFC on short notice. Andre Lima, on the other side, this is actually his third scheduled opponent for this fight. Whether it be someone getting injured or pulling out, this is his third guy to agree to fight him now. So he's been going through a lot of different opponents. So credit to him for even taking this fight, and also credit for to Mitch for taking this fight on such short notice. Getting his chance to go in the UFC. But I think that Mitch has to wrestle in this fight, man. I feel like for his path to win as an underdog, he's going to have to wrestle Andre Lima. I know that I mentioned his hands, but I like the wrestling more from Mitch Raposo, and I don't think that he's going to have success doing that against Andre Lima. Andre Lima has very good defensive wrestling and very good offensive jiu-jitsu. I like the hands from Andre Lima. He had that really weird result in his last fight where he won via the other guy biting him. My first ever time seeing someone in the UFC go Evander Holyfield and bite someone in the octagon, really. So, it's kind of his... he won his UFC debut, but it was kind of a weird result. Like, he didn't actually get to play the whole fight out, but this is a easier matchup in my opinion. No offense to Mitch Raposo, but I'm just not impressed with the level of competition Mitch Raposo has been looking good against. It's like, yeah, he's looking good. He's landing a lot of flush combinations, very good defensively, very good, a lot of good speed, and obviously very good offensive wrestling. But I just don't know the caliber of fighters that he's beating are really that great. Like, yeah, he looks good, like I said, but man, I wish he was beating a little bit better of competition, because every time he seems to get a step up, it doesn't look the best. So I really don't like how he looked in The Ultimate Fighter. I know that was a few years ago, but it's just kind of stuck in my head, So I'm going with Lima. I don't want to go, crazy on the very first fight of the night. At minus 270, I actually do think that's a pretty decent price, because I'm pretty low on Mitch Raposo, and I think that Andre Lima is going to have a pretty good UFC career. But that's a lot of juice to be playing on a guy who's making his, second walk to the octagon. No reason to have action on the very first fight if you're not super confident. But give me Andre Lima to win this fight. I think he wins via decision. Up next is a super controversial fight, in my opinion. We have a women's bantamweight fight between Ailin Perez and Joselyne Edwards. Perez comes in with a 9-2 record, currently minus 195 on the money line. He's fighting Joselyne Edwards, who comes in with a 13-5 record, currently plus 165 on the money line. And so before I looked into this fight, I figured that Perez would be a favorite, but not that much. And she did balloon up to around minus 220, minus 225. But now a little bit of money has been coming in on Edwards, pushing that back down to below minus 200. And, man, I really want to pick Joselyne Edwards. But in this fight, it's pretty one-dimensional. Guys, Ailin Perez is a grappler, right? She's going to grapple. She's going to look to get Joselyne Edwards down. And Joselyne Edwards has shown in her UFC career that she does not have any takedown defense, man. Every single fighter that tries is successful in getting Joselyne Edwards down, because she's a tall and long and heavy striker, throws a ton of kicks, has really good, powerful kicks. Honestly, she probably throws more kicks than she does punches, which is not the best for the optics, but man, everybody's taking her down. And not only that, everyone's keeping her down. The fact that she can't get up, the fact that she's not working to the cage and not getting up, I mean, it's a tough look, especially when you're fighting against someone like Ailin Perez, who's going to smother her, man. That's her style. She wants to get you down. She wants to smother you, pass your guard, and then, whether you turn your back, give up your neck on the way up, or she'll just ground and pound you and then, win the rounds that way. I mean, I'm not impressed with Ailin Perez's striking. On the feet, I'm definitely giving the advantage to Joselyne Edwards. But this is one of those fights, guys, where it might just take Ailin Perez 3 takedowns to win this fight. One single takedown could win the round for her in this fight. And that's the problem, because I really do like Joselyne Edwards to win, because I think she's better overall at MMA, but I just can't pick her when her deficiency in her takedown defense and grappling in general is just so bad, fighting someone that's all they do successfully, man. As far as the cardio, I would actually do expect Joselyne Edwards to look good toward the end of this fight if she doesn't get finished early. Ailin Perez has shown to slow down against inferior opponents, in my opinion. And it might be one of those cases where she's just beating up Joselyne Edwards so bad in that very first and second round that she actually might gas herself up from beating up Joselyne Edwards, man. So, yeah, these girls also have some beef. They got into a scrum at the UFC Apex, and yeah, man, I know I kind of mentioned that Ailin Perez got tired. She went to the hospital before her last fight, I believe. She ended up missing weight, and then kind of faded in that round, or in that third round. So I don't know, man. It's just a tricky fight. Give me Perez to win at minus 200. Fuck no, I'm not betting minus 200 on Ailin Perez. If anything, I would go fight doesn't go the distance, because I do think that one of these fighters should be able to get the finish, whether it be Ailin Perez mauling Joselyne Edwards or Joselyne Edwards getting the better of Perez when she does get tired. But I don't know. It's hard for me to picture Joselyne Edwards finishing really anybody in the UFC. This has to come from Perez if it's going to finish, and it might, man. So give me Perez inside the distance, and I think she wins that fight via ground and pound. And up next, we have a men's welterweight fight between Gall and Bassil Hafez. Gall comes in with a 7-5 record, currently plus 315 on the money line, while Bassil Hafez comes in with an 8-4-1 record, currently minus 425 on the money line. And oh my goodness, that's insane. Wow, that's insane. Almost minus 500 for Bassil Hafez in this fight, who's never won a single UFC fight in his life. But I get it, guys. When I lined this fight, before I looked into the tape study, before I studied this fight, I thought in my head, you know what, the books are going to line this fight, Bassil Hafez minus 350 and Gall plus 300. So I did figure that Bassil would be a big favorite in this fight, but dang, man, the line's moving and it's not stopping. Everybody's parlaying Hafez. And I get it. I do think he's going to win this fight. I'm pretty confident he wins this fight. But, oh, my gosh, we're talking about MMA. Anything can happen. And Gall is not a terrible grappler, guys. So the way this fight's going to play out, Bassil Hafez, very good grappler, right? A strong wrestler with decent striking. In my opinion, his striking is better. Or, sorry, his wrestling is better than his offensive striking. He's coming in, looking for his first UFC win, where in his last performance in the octagon, he fought against a top 5, top 10 guy in Jack Della Maddalena, and he looked good, man. This is a classic case, guys, of someone coming in on short notice in their UFC debut, taking a fight so the other fighter can stay on the card against a very high-level fighter, a top 5, top 10 championship-level fighter, and looking good in a loss. So Bassil lost that fight against Jack Della Maddalena, but he didn't look like a guy that was on 5 days' notice and that was plus 400 in that fight. He gave him a competitive fight against a guy who's in the top 5 of his own division. So, that was on 5 days' notice. But the one thing I will say about that fight is that for all the negative positions that Jack found himself in, most of the time he was putting himself in those positions. It was a lot more of Jack making mistakes than Bassil getting this guy down and passing his guard. It was Jack Della Maddalena jumping guillotine about 3 times in that fight for no reason. And the thing is, if Gall, goes and attempts those submissions, I figure he's going to get way closer to finishing him than someone like Jack Della Maddalena. To me, I like Jack's defensive grappling way more than his offensive grappling, because he was able to sweep and get up on a Hafez every single time. And luckily won that fight, not in a fight where I thought it was going to be a pretty one-way traffic type fight. But Bassil showed his own, man. He showed very good wrestling, very good cardio, and a ton of heart, man. This guy has a chin. Holy crap. That Della Maddalena was lighting this dude up. Which brings me to Gall, man. Gall, for as much as the lack of striking defense I saw from Bassil, I still don't think that Gall is going to be landing a ton of on Bassil here. Gall is a grappler at BJJ, sort of like that's his realm, you could say. I don't want to say specialist, but I just don't think he's that good, guys. I don't think he's UFC level. I know he's 7-5, but to me, we all know he got brought in to fight CM Punk and then Mike Jackson and a few other guys where it's like you can clearly tell the UFC does not care for Gall. They don't care if he ever has a deep run in the UFC. He's in and out. He's going to be done soon here, in my opinion. He's going to lose his fight and then probably get cut maybe 1 or 2 fights later. But dude, minus 425. We're talking about almost minus 500. Like I always say, dude, if you're that big of a favorite, I want you to go in there and rip your opponent's heart out and then throw it into the stands or something, because you have to go out and dominate every single area of the fight to cover minus 425 in any parlay and anything you bet on him. But man, he has to win this fight. I like Bassil Hafez in this fight. Yeah, it could be recency bias. We could be hyping a guy off a loss like we sometimes do. But I think he wins this fight. There's just not a single area I think Mickey Gall is better than. I don't think he's a better wrestler. Absolutely not. I don't think he's a better jiu-jitsu player. Absolutely not. They actually had a grappling match, these guys, like 10 years ago, and Hafez won, so it didn't sound like they don't know each other. And on the striking, no way, man. Give me Hafez, way more power, decent output, good chin, good cardio. I mean, give me Bassil Hafez, man. Absolutely wild, though. That money line is crazy. And up next, we have a men's welterweight fight between Niko Price and Alex Morono. Niko Price comes in with a 15-7 record, currently plus 220 on the money line, while Alex Morono comes in with a 24-9 record, currently minus 270 on the money line. So when I lined this fight before I tape studied, I figured that the books would have Alex Morono minus 165, Niko Price plus 125. So clearly I was off. Way more of a favorite for Alex Morono, and I get it. I do think that he's going to win this fight. I do pick him to win this fight. But man, it's kind of like, I don't know, like Niko Price is someone where, I mean, he has all the experience, right? A ton of experience, a ton of wars he's been in, man. This guy pushes the pace. He's going to make the fight exciting. There's no way this fight is not exciting. But he has a lot of scar tissue on his face. He gets marked up super easily. And I'm worried that chin might just be completely gone, man. In his last fight, he lost to Robbie Lawler in Robbie Lawler's swan song. And he lost that fight in like 45 seconds, guys. He got put in the clinch one time, got uppercut to the face, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes, and he was gone, man. That chin got turned to dust. And before that, he lost to Phil Rowe, who's also on this card, actually next fight. He got knocked out in that fight as well after looking good in the beginning of that fight. So it's 2 back-to-back losses on a guy that's 34 years old and kind of middling in the UFC. He's a 500 fighter in the UFC. Whereas Alex Morono, I also wouldn't consider him a specialist in any one single particular area. He's pretty well-rounded. I do like his grappling and his offensive jiu-jitsu way more than his striking. But even then, like, more recently in his career, he seems to be developing really well on the feet, man. He seems to be comfortable being a counterpuncher, which I think really helps him in this fight because Niko Price is going to be one going forward. I picture in my head Morono being the one circling in like out of the octagon here and kind of landing Niko chase. And then clipping him, man. Like I said, he's pretty comfortable fighting off his back foot, which is going to be a big factor in this fight. But man, I just feel like Niko Price is kind of, I won't say falling off a cliff, but starting to head that way. If this was golf, he'd be on the back nine. So I like Morono. I like him to win this fight. One thing I will say is, man, I really hope that they show the walkouts. I love Alex Morono's walkout. He walks out to Turnstile. Shout out to Turnstile. He walks out to Blackout. It's an awesome walkout. Hopefully they show it. But give me Morono to win this fight. As far as the method of victory, man, I can see either way. I can see him taking them down and controlling and securing rounds that way, or I can see an exciting 15-minute striking fight where Niko Price actually probably looks better than the plus 220 money line indicates. Until the end, though, I'm going with Morono, man. Like I said, I do worry about that chin. Knocked out 2 times in a row, and that most recent run against Robbie Lawler was a very bad look. So give me Alex Morono to win that fight. I'm going to go with the third-round knockout. I'm going to go a third-round knockout for Morono. Yeah, I think he finishes Niko Price. Up next, we have a welterweight fight between Phil Rowe and Jake Matthews. Phil Rowe comes in with a 10-4 record, currently plus 140 on the money line, while Jake Matthews comes in with a 19-7 record, currently minus 170 on the money line. Now, before I looked into the tape study, before I studied this fight, I figured that Phil Rowe would have been a plus 125 underdog, and Jake Matthews would have been a minus 150 favorite. So I did expect Jake Matthews to be the favorite, and a little bit more so than he is now. But I'm going with the underdog here. I'm taking an underdog shot on Phil Rowe. I don't know if I'm going to get to the window here. I'm not crazy confident in Phil Rowe winning this fight, but I mean, at this point, we know what we're going to get from Jake Matthews, right? So, guy's having close to almost 20 professional fights in the UFC. He's been here since he was like a teenager. Very good striker, powerful hands. I actually like the wrestling from Jake Matthews. I kind of wish he would, try to emphasize that part of his game a little bit more in his fights. I actually kind of feel that way for a lot of these fighters. There's a lot of welterweights on this card, and that seems to be a thing. But, man, we know Jake Matthews well. In his last fight, we 5-unit max bet against him, man. We threw a bomb on Morales in his last fight because I was just confident that Jake Matthews only had one path to win that fight, and that was via knockout. I didn't think that he was going to out-grapple Morales, who seems to be a pretty good prospect. And, sure enough, he ends up cracking Morales multiple times in that fight, but it wasn't enough to knock him out. And luckily, Morales was able to eat those shots and catch us that 5-unit winner. But, I mean, I respect Jake Matthews' skills, man. He has a ton of experience, but he seems to never be able to separate in his fights, man. He can't really put the emphasis and close out rounds and really put a stamp on those rounds. And he seems to be losing to guys that he should be favored, man. If you look at his betting history where he's lined as a favorite, man, he has a negative ROA. Like, it's pretty bad. You don't want to bet on guys that always lose his favorites. You don't want to pay juice for a guy like Jake Matthews, what my point is. Phil Rowe, on the other hand, though, 6'3" welterweight, right? So super tall and long. He's going to be way taller and longer here in this fight. I mean, a 7-inch reach advantage in this fight. Absolutely crazy. A 4-inch height advantage in this fight. So he's going to be towering over Jake Matthews. And so that brings me to, like, how is Jake Matthews going to, pressure forward? How is he going to get into the space of Phil Rowe? Phil Rowe, likes his calf kicks. He's going to really utilize that in this fight, I believe. And likes to stick that jab and circle, man. I like his jiu-jitsu as well. It's kind of funny. He actually challenged Craig Jones in karate combat. It's a submission type, competition, and Craig Jones is one of the best guys in the world, and I figured Craig Jones weighs way more than Phil Rowe, and so I was kind of surprised that Phil Rowe even took that match, and sure enough gets submitted flying arm triangle, or flying triangle, I should say, off the cage. But yeah, man, Phil Rowe obviously has enough confidence in himself to take on someone like Craig Jones and think he's gonna win, and definitely got dusted. And it's kind of funny because Craig Jones said that he was drinking beers before that match, and he still went out there and submitted Phil Rowe. I was like, damn, that's a tough look for Phil. But man, if this fight does hit the mat, I'm going with Phil Rowe to win those grappling exchanges. I think that he's gonna out-scramble Jake Matthews if it does get down. And in the clinch, I feel like Phil Rowe can really bank minutes in that area. It's so crazy how he decided to fight Neil Magny, but that's IQ is one thing we can talk about for sure. You never want to bet on a guy that has low fight IQ. And Phil Rowe has definitely shown moments of doing that in his career. I'm going with the underdog. I think that this line is a little bit wide. I don't know if I'm going to be betting this fight. You know how they say scared money doesn't make money, but I don't foresee myself being forced to bet Phil Rowe here in this fight. If it gets, Jake Matthews minus 200, Phil Rowe minus 165, maybe. But man, I just don't foresee myself laying juice on Jake Matthews. I respect his skill set. I respect his experience. I'm going with Phil Rowe. I'm going with the underdog here to win this fight. I will say that Craig Jones said that he gave Phil Rowe staph infection. And then kind of joked like, "Ha, dude, I beat you twice," because you got to deal with staph after. But I mean, that wasn't that long ago, so hopefully it's all good now. But it is kind of weird that he had staph not too long ago. So give me Phil Rowe to win that fight. I'm gonna go with a 3-round decision. Up next, we have a fight between Grant Dawson and Joe Solecki. Grant Dawson comes in with a 22-1 record, currently minus 500 on the money line. Crazy. Joe Solecki comes in with a 13-4 record, currently plus 350 on the money line. Huge underdog. Now, when I lined this fight before looking at it, I lined it at minus 220 Grant Dawson, Joe Solecki plus 185. So I was way off, man. Money's coming in on Grant Dawson, and it's not stopping whatsoever. And I agree, man. I think Grant Dawson's going to kill Joe Solecki. Not obviously kill, but I mean, no disrespect, guys. Obviously, he's a great fighter. But I think he's going to crush this guy. So Joe Solecki is a pure jiu-jitsu guy. This guy will pull guard. If this was a grappling match, 100% Joe Solecki would be a boot scooter, scoot, and try to grab the ankles of Grant Dawson, trying to get him into his guard. But you can't do that in MMA. So unless you're Ryan Hall, boot scooting doesn't really work for you. The wrestling from Joe Solecki, for someone that has such good jiu-jitsu, his wrestling is not there. He's not getting overmat takedowns. He's not getting trips inside the clinch as often as he should be. Because if you're that good in your area, especially jiu-jitsu, you would think that you would seek, opportunities to get it in that area. Whereas Grant Dawson is the complete opposite. He's a wrestler, and he's going to be able to get the fight down pretty much against almost all of his opponents that he's fought so far. He really wants to get you down. I mean, guys, he's taking down Mark Madsen, an Olympic, I don't know if it's bronze or silver, but an Olympic medalist, and he's taking him down and working him, outgassing the Olympic fighter. And Joe Solecki is not that. Joe Solecki will be comfortable getting taken down, get off his back, and look to work from there. And I just don't think that Grant Dawson's going to be able to let him get off on anything. On the feet, it's not even close. I know Grant Dawson, it's kind of funny I should say that because Grant Dawson in his very last fight, guys, got absolutely slept early by Bobby Green. And Bobby Green doesn't sleep anybody. Terrible look. That was a main event. Supposed to be like a big springboard opportunity for Grant Dawson. And man, he got slept very bad in that very first round. One of the very first strikes that Bobby Green threw. So, coming off a horrible loss, I believe that was about 10 months ago, so he did let his brain recover, took some time off, and the hype is completely gone. I'm not thinking, ranked, top 5, none of that stuff. This is a get-right fight, guys. The UFC said, we messed that up. He wasn't ready. Let's get him a get-right fight. Let's get him a guy that is a jiu-jitsu player in the Pure 6 aspect and can't wrestle and can't strike. So that's Joe Solecki. Grant Dawson's going to have the advantage in every single area in this fight. He's going to probably finish Joe Solecki. I don't know if he's going to submit him. I think it's going to be from a ground and pound finish here. But if he does submit Joe Solecki, it's probably because Joe Solecki gave up his back. He probably turtled and snatched up his neck. So give me Grant Dawson to win via submission. No. I'm gonna go ground and pound finish. I'm gonna change to a round 2 ground and pound finish for Grant Dawson. God dang, though, minus 500. That's crazy. Oh, and then up next we have a banger of a fight, guys. Do not miss this one. Please do not get to a TV for this one. This one's free. Still on ESPN Plus. Get to this fight. We have a middleweight fight between Cesar Almeida and Roman Kopylov. Cesar Almeida comes in undefeated 5-0, currently minus 120 on the money line, while Roman Kopylov comes in at 12-3, currently plus 100 on the money line. And yeah, when I looked at this fight, man, I was way off. I thought that they would line Roman Kopylov at minus 180 and Cesar Almeida at plus 130. Now, I was right in the sense that Roman was the favorite earlier in the week, but man, money in the market completely coming in on Almeida. Money's pouring in, pushing him to the favorite. So Cesar Almeida was the underdog at one point a few days ago, and now all that plus money is gone. You have to pay juice on Almeida now, but now there's plus money on Kopylov. And I'm going with Kopylov, guys. So this is a striker versus striker fight in the purest form, man. This should be exciting. So Cesar Almeida, the former Glory kickboxer, has a win over Alex Pereira over there. And this guy can crack, man. If you watch him strike, he's, in my opinion, the cleaner guy in this fight. Roman's, especially his defense, is a little bit worse than Cesar. But the overall MMA game, being able to get takedowns, being able to defend takedowns, that clearly goes to Roman. He's the more developed overall fighter, in my opinion, you can say. Whereas Cesar is just a beast on the feet, man. And it's funny because it's like, okay, if it's 15 minutes on the feet and Roman doesn't, enforce any grappling in this fight, well, then you would think Cesar Almeida should be a huge favorite, right? But I'm going with Roman Kopylov, man. I like the trajectory he's on. I know, some of the guys he's beating and getting crazy highlight finishes against aren't the, highest level fighters. And what worries me the most is his striking defense, man. You can pull apart little clips if you watch tape where he's just running forward and wide, and it's just making me think, like, you don't think that Cesar Almeida is going to make him pay for doing stuff like that? Like, of course he is. He's going to be able to snipe him. But I actually do think that Roman Kopylov has a little bit of a speed advantage in this fight. I know that sounds crazy, but I do think that Roman's slightly quicker than Cesar Almeida on the feet. It's just that as the fight goes, I'm interested to see how it plays. Will Roman Kopylov use any of the clinch? Will he try to get this fight down at all? Will the open man shoot on any takedowns here? Or will Cesar Almeida just keep this upright, down block, and pick this guy apart and eventually finish him? Someone's going to get cracked in this fight. It's going to be super exciting. But I'm going with Kopylov, man. Give me Kopylov to win this fight at plus money. I might be betting him, so give me Kopylov to win that fight. And that should be a banger, absolute banger, guys. I can't wait for that fight. Now, up next, we have another banger fight between two pretty exciting guys. We have a welterweight fight again between Randy Brown and Oleksiejczuk dos Santos. So Randy Brown comes in with an 18-5 record, currently minus 180 on the money line, and Oleksiejczuk dos Santos comes in with a 24-7-1 record, currently plus 150 on the money line. Now, when I lined it, I actually had it right. I actually got this one up perfectly right. I guessed it was going to be minus 160 Brown, plus 130 Dos Santos, and that's what it was. When I went to check, that's what it was. But in the last few days, last couple hours, it's been moving a little bit, money coming in now on Randy Brown, pushing him to minus 180, so it's coming off that minus 160. But I do agree, man. I do think that Randy Brown should be the favorite in this fight. Zaleski is just so powerful, man. This guy has crazy forward pressure, finishing upside to the max. I definitely don't think that if someone finishes this fight, it's going to be Randy Brown. It has to be Dos Santos in this, in my opinion, at least. Man, he's 37 years old, getting up there in age, and he's quite hittable as well. I don't worry about his gas tank at all. Obviously in his last fight, he came out strong toward when his opponent ended up being the one that gassed Fakhretdinov. But, I mean, Randy Brown, super tall, long guy, 6'3", right? Another fight where he's going to have a 4-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage in this fight. And I wonder how Dos Santos is going to be able to close the pocket, manage the distance without rushing in forward, getting hit by Randy Brown. But also at the same time, it's like, will Randy Brown's pot shots on the counters be enough to win this fight where Dos Santos is throwing crazy combinations, looking for that one shot that changes the round, you can say, or sways the crowd in front of this pay-per-view, fans. Like, I think that Randy Brown should win this fight. I think that he has the defensive capability to not get hit by Dos Santos. And if he does get shot on, I think he can down block and spread his legs, get on that cage, and keep him up. I think that he can reverse him in the clinch. But if he does get on the mat, I do worry that I think that Dos Santos can probably work him if they do eventually get to the mat. This is a close fight, man. I'm going with Randy Brown. Almost minus 2-1. That's a lot of juice in my opinion because it's a pretty close fight. And like I said, the finishing upside, in my opinion at least, comes from Dos Santos. I do worry though that he is 37 years old and his striking defense isn't the best. And I think that Randy Brown's long, tall range is going to be able to split his guard. So I think Randy Brown does win a decision in this fight. And it's going to be a very good, exciting fight, man. I can't wait for that. Up next, we have a banger of a heavyweight fight. Kind of a bounce back spot, in my opinion. We have Jailton Almeida taking on Alexandr Romanov. Jailton Almeida comes in with a 20-3 record, currently minus 290 on the money line, while Alexandr Romanov comes in with a 17-2 record, currently plus 235. Now, when I lined that fight, I had it Jailton Almeida at minus 180 and Romanov at plus 140. And that's not like any sort of disrespect to Almeida. I do think that he should be the favorite, but I kind of figured in my head that he wouldn't be such a massive favorite like some of the other guys you see on this card, just due to the fact that Romanov is a grappler. We all know how Almeida fights. He's going to go in there and he's going to take you down. He's going to maul you. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, like all these guys, like he's going to take you down. But his striking is shit, dude. He has no striking. It's basic. I think he doesn't even care about his striking. It's very low output. Those 1 or 2 shots, try to get close to you and grab you. which, hey, everyone has their own, way of fighting it, and obviously he's really good at it. But it's super one-dimensional, guys. He's a grappler, and he's undersized for the heavyweight division. This guy could be fighting at 205, but for some reason weighs in at the low limit for heavyweight. And he's always way, way smaller than all his opponents, but technically it doesn't really matter because he's still taking them all down. Even if they have really good wrestling credentials, like someone like Curtis Blades. Someone like Curtis Blades, probably the best wrestler in the heavyweight division, was getting taken down over and over by Jailton Almeida. I think it was something crazy like 9 times in that very first round. He's getting up, but he's getting put right back down. We all saw how that fight ended. Jailton Almeida shoots in for a double. Curtis pulls his head into the next week and he gets knocked out. So that was a fight where he was winning, ends up losing. That's a tough look. You never want to see that. And now he's getting a fight against Alexandr Romanov, who's a good grappler, man. This guy, we all know about the suplexes. Suplex City for sure. This guy will body lock you and throw you into the sky. Really good judo trips. I like on Romanov, man. I'm not like someone running him off thinking that he sucks just because he's fallen on some hard times in the octagon. But he just seems that he can't take that next step. He can't hit that next gear in his career and really progress, because when he came onto the scene, I was excited for him. I thought he had a lot of upside, especially with the grappling. And he's big he's huge, big guy. But man, he's going to be way bigger than Almeida in this fight. There's going to be like a 20-30 pound difference in this fight when they do fight. And Romanov can grapple. Like I said, guys, he's strong. He's not a fish out of water in the grappling at all. That's his realm, man. He wants to grapple. And if Jailton Almeida is going to go out there and try to wrestle Romanov the whole fight, I don't know. It's just like the gas tech, man. We've all seen Romanov tire. And it's just one of those things where if Jailton gets Romanov down, which I do foresee happening, I definitely don't think that he's not going to struggle to get him down. I think he will get him down. It's from there where if Alex, how does he look after that? Because I think once Jailton gets him down just one time, Romanov will not look the same after that. I think that he will look horrible after that, getting put on his back. The rest of the fight, he will look tired and drained and labored, and that will just let Jailton, progress and send into a win. So I think that he mounts Romanov at some point in this fight. I think Romanov gives up his back or gets caught in an arm triangle. I think that Almeida finishes Romanov. Give me Romanov round 2 submission. Now we have, I don't know if that last fight was in the main event, our main card, but I know this one is. This is our main card fight. So we have a middleweight fight, man, between Big Mouth Kevin Holland and Michal Oleksiejczuk. Kevin Holland comes in with a 25-11 record, currently minus 290 on the money line. And Michal Oleksiejczuk comes in with a 19-7 record, currently plus 235 on the money line. Now, when I lined this fight, I was way off again. I had minus 175 for Kevin Holland and Oleksiejczuk at plus 130. So I do, again, think that Kevin Holland should be the favorite, but should he be a minus 3-1 favorite? Man, I don't know. I'm going with Kevin Holland to win this fight. I don't want to say it's a bounce back fight, because I actually do respect Oleksiejczuk's skill set. He's a very good striker with good power, good defensive guard up tight. Not the best wrestler. I don't foresee him trying to grapple Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's a really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in his own right. If he does get taken down by Oleksiejczuk, I think he has good enough reversals and sweeps to get up, or really, taking advantage of Oleksiejczuk off the ground, throw something from bottom. He's very active off his back, Kevin Holland. But I actually think that Kevin Holland can be the one offensively wrestling in this fight himself. The way Michal fights, he's but he's a powerful striker going forward, and he's going to put the pressure in Kevin Holland's face. Kevin Holland's going to be fighting off his back foot more than likely in this fight, for as long as it goes, because I honestly think that Oleksiejczuk is just collecting a check, guys. I don't know what it was before that last fight against Michal Pereira. We almost got knocked out and choked out in 5 seconds. Where he said that he left his gym, he doesn't have a coach, he just trains with his friends, and I don't know how that, what in the world was he thinking when he said that, because he goes out there and gets worked by Michal Pereira in 3 minutes, and looked horrible, absolutely horrible, looked terrible, looked the worst he's ever looked in the UFC, and now he's back, right? But now he's back on a pay-per-view on the main card, so it's wait, how did that happen? He looked horrible in his last fight, and so I think it's the UFC being all right, well, Kevin Holland lost his last fight against MVP, he took one for us, he was able to step up and challenge MVP when no one else would. And, obviously he lost. So now they're all right, here you go. Here's a main card in New Jersey, pay-per-view slot against a guy that looked absolutely horrific in his last fight. So Michal Oleksiejczuk, powerful striker with good forward pressure. I wonder how Kevin Holland's going to deal with it, but I do think that Kevin Holland, if it does get to the clinch or the ground, will be the one with an advantage. And on the feet, he's savvy enough to not get knocked out, to not get hit by that big shot. Man, it's not like he's going to go out there and just work and piece up on Michal on the feet. I definitely don't see that coming. I think that he's going to have to work for this win. But like I said, too many red flags from Michal. That last fight was so weird. He's not that fighter, guys. He was better than how he fought his last fight. So that was definitely weird to see. But give me Kevin Holland, man. I'm confident he wins this fight. Minus 300, not that confident. But I do think that Kevin Holland wins that fight. And in the co-main event, guys, we have a middleweight fight between Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa. Hold on. Yep. Sean Strickland comes in with a 28-6 record, currently minus 245 on the money line, while Paulo Costa comes in with a 14-3 record, currently plus 200 on the money line. And when I predicted the money line on this fight, I had it Sean Strickland at minus 150, Paulo Costa at plus 125. So yeah, I did think that Sean Strickland was going to be a favorite, but one thing that makes this fight interesting is that it's a 5-round fight. It's not a 3-round fight, not a title fight, but it's still 5 rounds. And I think that heavily favors Sean Strickland. If it was a 3-round fight, I would have way more confidence in Paulo Costa to win this fight, but I'm still picking Paulo Costa to win this fight. Listen, I know Sean Strickland has looked really good in his last few fights, man. We all know how he fights. He loves to jab. He's throwing that jab out. No power whatsoever from him, even though he dropped Adesanya, which is absolutely crazy. And then Paulo Costa, kind of the opposite. He doesn't throw a ton of volume. He doesn't really work that jab. He looks for the power shot. He looks for a counter hook. He looks for overhand right. I mean, we saw him spinning wheel kick Robert Whittaker in that very first round, almost knocked him out in that first round, and put him on skates. But other than that, he got worked the whole fight. His face was all bloodied up. And so was Rob, though. And that's one thing I want to mention, man. So this card will be the first card with the new UFC gloves. And Islam Makhachev, the champ, was talking about how it's going to lead to more cuts. And Sean Strickland was talking about how he doesn't like the gloves. But if it's leading to more cuts, if it's more jagged, and he's fighting, and Paulo Costa's fighting Sean Strickland, that favors Paulo because Sean Strickland wears damage really bad. He's really pale, and when he gets marked, he gets red really fast. There's a lot of scar tissue from all the sparring years he's done, like all the sparring he's done over the years, I should say, on his face, kind of like Nick Diaz. But man, that's what I really like about Sean is that his actual striking defense is really good, man. Like, he is hard to hit. It's frustrating, or not frustrating, but like you can see the opponent getting frustrated fighting him because he's just so elusive. He's always moving. He always has his elbows up, his guard up. He has that weird Philly roll, like boxing style. And you can tell guys, because then he's the one putting it on the other guy, and they just can't get to him. So there's times where Sean Strickland's fighting a 5-round fight, and this is another thing. Paulo Costa's only fought 5 rounds one time in his career. Sean Strickland fights 5 rounds all the time now. And he has the cardio to do it for days. This guy can go 10 rounds. But that's the thing with Sean Strickland. You'll watch him fight, and then in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, other than against Dricus, like he looks fine. It looks like he's not even in a fight. He's one of those guys where he'll be in the 4th round, and you can look at his face. You're like, dude, that guy's been fighting for 20 minutes now. Like he has not a mark on him. Because he's hard to hit, guys. Very good defense. But against Dricus, he got cut early in that fight, and I think that really hurt him. The optics look really bad. Well, yeah, man, give me Paulo Costa. Just based off the fact that Sean's gonna be like in his face, he's gonna be having to go for it. He's gonna be the one, pushing the pace. And I just think that Paulo Costa has 25 minutes here to land a big shot on Sean Strickland. Yes, Sean Strickland is a better fighter. Obviously, the better wrestler with better jiu-jitsu, in my opinion. But he never uses it. And that's not the type of style he fights. He wants to give the fans an exciting fight. Gonna be another pay-per-view, fan favorite. The crowd's gonna be behind him. I mean, the fans like Paulo Costa too, but I'm going with Costa here. And it's kind of a bit of an underdog dart here. I'm going with Costa to win this fight, plus 200. Yeah, man, I think he does it. Nothing against Sean Strickland. I like the guy. I think he's super funny. I know he says some crazy stuff, but yeah, it's kind of crazy right here on the screen. It says Paulo Costa lands more per minute, significant strikes landed right here. I'm gonna highlight it per minute. Then Strickland, that definitely surprises me. I didn't expect to see that, but yeah, man, give me Sean Strickland to win that fight. Or sorry, no, fuck. What the fuck am I talking about? Give me Paulo Costa to win that fight via knockout in that 3rd round. And up next, we have the main event, guys. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think about the fight so far. Do you agree or you disagree? Are you fading? What do you think about the card so far? So, yeah, we have a lightweight title fight between Islam Makhachev and Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Makhachev comes in as a massive minus 600 favorite. He comes in with a 25-1 record. And, yeah, a 6-1 favorite over Dustin Poirier in this fight. Crazy, right? Fighting Dustin Poirier, who comes in with a 30-8 record, currently plus 400 on the money line. Huge underdog. I don't know if Dustin Poirier's ever been that big of an underdog, honestly. Even against Khabib, I don't know if he was that big of an underdog. But yeah, man, pretty easy fight to talk about. We all know both these guys really, really well. The champ, probably the best fighter in the UFC, honestly. Super well-rounded. Really good judo tricks, really good wrestling, really good submissions. And his striking's coming along, man. We all saw him sleep Alexandr Volkanovski with that head kick brutally. And even in that first fight against Volkanovski, he was clipping Volkanovski pretty bad, man. I don't know if it's Volk not being able to deal with the power of guys at 155, or if Islam has a little bit of more juice than we think. But man, he was stunning Alex and locking his head back and had him like kind of dazed a few times in that very first fight. Obviously finished him in that second fight, and then against Oliveira, dropped him. Oliveira goes in for a weird kind of like knee, obviously on one foot, gets put off balance and gets put down and submitted from Makhachev. So this will be his first title defense against an actual real 155er. But I mean, it's like Volkanovski is like the best 145er of all time, so it's like you can't really hold it against him. And he went to his country for that first fight, so credit to him for doing that. But I will say, so Islam knocked out Volkanovski right with that head kick. And he actually got injured on that head kick. He was down for a few months after that. He was on crutches. I don't know if he had surgery or not. I think he did. And that's an issue because recently, if you watch all of his training videos, I'm watching him train for this fight. I'm watching Bilal Muhammad's videos too because he's training for a title fight as well. And Islam's in the back. And every single one of these videos, Islam's left shin is like wrapped up. Like something's up. And so I was like, okay, like maybe he's just taking it light with that. Maybe it's still tender or whatever. But then it comes out today, guys. I'm going to try to edit this into where I can put the picture up. It looks like he has staph, guys. I'll be honest. It looks like Islam Makhachev has staph infection on his left leg. And that's a huge deal, guys. Which brings me to Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is coming off a big win against Benoit Saint Denis in a fight where I thought he was going to lose. I bet on Saint Denis. And, he won because he was on staph. I'll say, man, Denis was working Poirier even with staph infection. The dude had staph on his forehead. It's like as big as a nickel. I mean, you can't tell me he didn't have staph. He said he had staph. Everyone at the eyeballs knows he had staph. And, it's not Dustin's fault. He went out there and knocked his ass out. But, I mean, even then, Dustin Poirier, a habitual guillotine jumper. This guy loves jumping gilly, even though he doesn't get it. Man, this guy is dumb enough to do it against someone like Khabib in Abu Dhabi in front of his dad. It's like, how dumb are you? Got finished like 45 seconds after that happened. So he's going to jump guillotine against Islam Makhachev. He's not going to get it. He's going to end up on his back. And his own corner, his own coach, Matt Brown, is going to be freaking out, yelling at him because they do what the hell? We told you for 3 months not to do this. But that's another thing, guys. If Saint Denis would have won that fight against Poirier where he lost, he would have been the one fighting Islam Makhachev and not Dustin Poirier. The UFC, Dana White told him, hey, Saint Denis, if you win this fight against Poirier, you have Islam next. Sure enough, he loses. They go then, not even to Dustin, they go to Arman Tsarukyan, and he denies it because he had just beat Charles Oliveira that night. He says, no, it's too quick with turnaround. And then Dustin's like, hell no. This is my last chance. I'm 0-2 in title fights. I'm 5 years old. And this might be my last shot. So he took the fight relatively short notice, not that long, I think 4 or 5 weeks of a turnaround. And now he's back in the title fight against someone like Islam Makhachev. And I don't think he's going to be ready, man. I do worry, though, that Islam Makhachev has straight-up staph infection. Because if Islam goes to this fight healthy, he's going to kill Dustin Poirier. He's going to submit him in this fight or ground and pound finish him, get him down and finish him. He's going to win inside the distance in this fight. But if he has staph, I can see this fight getting extended. I can see Islam Makhachev missing weight if he has staph, honestly. These guys are huge. These Dagestan guys are huge. But I got to say, so this is a fight between a southpaw and a southpaw. Dustin Poirier is 7-2 in his 9 fights against southpaws, and Islam Makhachev has his only career loss against a southpaw. He rushed in wild like he kind of normally does and got checked right hooked into next week. That's one thing I do worry about Islam. In that Charles Oliveira fight, I know it was more than 2 fights ago. Even then, he was showing really, really bad tendencies. He would leap forward, like his left leg was going forward, throwing a right hook, putting himself out of position, really bad footwork, leaping into his shots, right? But in the Alex fights, he looked way better. He looked way more polished. I do believe he got a few more coaches. I know he went to the Russian Olympic Training Center for this fight for 2 weeks, which I thought was really weird. And in every interview I see him talk about this fight, it doesn't sound like he trained for more than 4 weeks in this fight. So that's definitely weird. But yeah, man, give me Islam Makhachev to win this fight. I think he submits Dustin Poirier or wins via ground pound in that second or third round. But for my official prediction, I'm going Islam Makhachev submission round 2. That'll do, guys. UFC 302 this Saturday in New Jersey. Should be a good one, man. Super excited. Hopefully we can continue the winning ways and win some money on this card. So let me know what you think about my predictions. Let me know if you have any bets you like, any underdogs you like. And yeah, man, let's go Islam and still.